I used your card, just for utilities. Sister lied. 10 hours later my account was empty, $2,300 gone. Everything went to gifts for her golden 7-year-old daughter. A new iPad and expensive toys. I didn't scream. I just took quiet action. By morning my sister started screaming when she found out this. After this, I knew I'd never trust her again. Not as my sister, not as a friend, not even as someone I could leave in the same room with my purse. Something inside me snapped that day. Not loudly. Quietly, like when a door shuts for good and you don't even bother to look back. It started with her knocking on my door at 8:20 in the morning. I remember the time because I was halfway through my coffee and hadn't even sat down yet. Olivia said her card had been flagged for fraud, and the bank locked her out of her account. She didn't look panicked, more rehearsed. Like she'd already figured out exactly what to say before she got in the car. She told me she just needed to cover some urgent utility payments. Water, power, basic stuff. She said she'd be locked out of her apartment system if she didn't get them paid before noon. She even threw in something about late fees and how she couldn't risk it because her daughter was staying home that day. I didn't question it. I didn't even hesitate long enough to make her sweat. I just grabbed the card from the drawer. It wasn't my main card. I'm not that careless. But it was the one linked to my savings. My actual savings. The $2,300 I'd been building for emergencies, maybe even for a small used car down the line. She knew I'd been saving. She knew that money mattered to me. And I still handed it over because I believed her. I wanted to believe she wasn't the same Olivia who used to lie about broken phones and overdue rent. I told her clear as day, just for utilities. No shopping, no extras. She said, of course, acted offended that I even brought it up. Then she left. The whole day was uneventful after that. I worked from home, answered emails, made lunch, and tried to shake off the weird feeling I always get when Olivia's involved in something. By late afternoon I started checking my phone a little more than usual. No texts from her. No calls. Around 6 p.m. I texted her. Nothing. By 7:15 I called. Straight to voicemail. By 7:30 I opened my bank app, just to look. I expected maybe a couple hundred gone. I was still telling myself maybe she rounded up to cover last month too. What I saw hit like a brick. My balance was $14.03. I refreshed the app 3 times like it was some glitch. But no. It was all gone. A $679 charge at the Apple Store. Multiple charges at Target and Amazon. Toys R Us, $382. Macy's, $211. Something called Kid Lux for $170. A full list of charges, one after another, all logged between 10:45 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. She spent every penny. All for her daughter. It wasn't even subtle. A brand new iPad. Dolls, games, clothes, a child-sized electric car. I could see the item names in the receipts. She didn't even try to cover her tracks. It was a birthday haul, a massive one, like her kid was royalty and she had a limitless card to back it up. I didn't even cry. I felt sick, but there weren't any tears. There was just a numb sort of silence while I stared at that screen. It wasn't just the money. It was the fact that she looked me in the eye and said utilities. She knew exactly what she was doing. I sat down at my desk, opened a new folder on my laptop and named it Olivia Theft. Then I started gathering everything. Screenshots. Texts. Timestamps. I even checked the security cam I have outside my apartment to log the time she arrived and left. I called my bank and froze the card. Then I filed a police report online. It didn't even feel like revenge. It felt like math. This happened and now this happens next. By the time I went to bed, everything was in motion. And by the next morning, Olivia's world came crashing down. The next morning, everything moved fast. I was still in my pajamas, sitting by the window with a cold cup of coffee, when I got the call from the police department. They said they were at my sister's apartment, and they needed me to come down to the station to clarify a few things. I asked if she was okay. The officer said she was in custody for now. I didn't ask anything else. I just got dressed, grabbed the file I'd printed out the night before, screenshots, account logs, text messages, and left. By the time I arrived, Olivia had already been brought in. I didn't see it, but they told me she'd been screaming at the officers before they even made it inside. Her boyfriend had opened the door. Her daughter had been sitting on the floor surrounded by unopened gift bags and boxes. When they walked in, she didn't even ask what was going on. She just started yelling, saying she didn't steal anything, that her sister gave her the card. Like that was going to change what she did with it. When I walked into the station, I could hear her. She wasn't crying. She was furious. Accusing me of setting her up. Saying this was all a misunderstanding. That it wasn't theft because we were family. They brought me into a separate room and had me go over everything from start to finish. I laid out the timeline. Showed the text from the morning before where she said it was just for utilities. Showed the account activity, the timestamps matching exactly when she was out shopping. Not one payment to a utility company. Not a single dollar toward what she said it was for. Then they brought her in, hands cuffed in front of her. She wouldn't even look at me at first. But once she sat down and realized I was the one who filed the report, she lost it again. Told the officer I was blowing everything out of proportion. Told me she was going to pay me back. Told everyone it wasn't that serious. I didn't say much. Just listened. Because it wasn't about proving something anymore. It was about finally forcing her to face what she always avoided: consequences. One of the detectives read off the charges she could face. Unauthorized use of a financial instrument, possible intent to defraud, depending on how things went with the returns. I could see the moment it hit her. Her whole face changed. Not because she was sorry, but because she realized this could actually cost her something. She'd always gotten out of things before. There was always someone to clean up the mess. But not this time. They gave her a choice. She could either face charges or return everything, refund every cent, and make it right. She didn't say a word for a full minute. Then she asked if she could call someone. They let her, but it didn't help. No one could cover for her this time. Her boyfriend didn't even pick up. She chose the refund. That afternoon she started returning the gifts. She kept quiet about it, but I saw the notifications coming in. First $679 from the Apple Store. Then $382 from Toys R Us. One by one, everything started reversing. I kept track of every dollar. I didn't contact her. I didn't even let her know I was watching. I just waited. By the end of day 2, $1,900 was back. I didn't expect to get all of it. Some stores don't refund electronics once they're opened, and I knew her daughter had already been using the iPad. But she was doing it. Not because she wanted to, but because she had no other choice. Then on day 3, just as the whole thing seemed to be winding down, I got a text from our cousin Mia. It was short. Just 5 words. Have you heard about Olivia? I hadn't spoken to anyone about her since I filed the report. But Mia didn't wait for a reply. She sent the next message immediately. Her daughter's in the hospital. Appendix. Emergency surgery. It's bad. I didn't respond right away. I stared at that message longer than I should have, like it was in a language I didn't understand. And in that moment, I had no idea that this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of something worse. I didn't expect karma to hit so quickly, or so hard. But 3 days after the police walked her out of her apartment in cuffs, Olivia found herself in the back of another vehicle, this time a speeding ambulance. It was her daughter. I still remember the first message I got about it. Just 5 words from our cousin Mia. Have you heard about Olivia? My first reaction was cold. I didn't want to hear about her. I didn't want to know what she was doing, what excuse she was working on, or who she was blaming next. But then the second message came before I could even reply. Her daughter's in the hospital. Appendix. Emergency surgery. It's bad. At first I didn't believe it. Honestly, it felt too convenient. A part of me thought maybe Olivia was trying to shift attention, create another scene, stir up sympathy. She knew how to work people. But then my phone started ringing. My mom. My aunt. A voicemail from her boyfriend. Another from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone saying the same thing. It was real. She was in the ER. Her daughter had gone from stomach pain to vomiting to nearly passing out on the bathroom floor in under 24 hours. When they finally took her to the hospital, her appendix had already ruptured. She went straight into emergency surgery. And here's where it hit the hardest. They didn't have the money. Not a cent. She had drained everything on that shopping spree. All the refunds were still pending. And she was locked out of her account while the fraud investigation was active. She didn't even have access to her PayPal. Her boyfriend had less than $500 to his name, and no one else in the family could float that kind of bill. The hospital needed thousands, fast, because their insurance only covered part of the procedure and the rest was on them. Suddenly, the birthday she had thrown like some grand royal event, the endless sweets and cakes and bags of toys, the brand new iPad her daughter was glued to for the last 3 days. It all came crashing down into a single word no parent wants to hear. Surgery. And all of it, led back to Olivia's need to impress a room full of kids and moms who wouldn't even remember the party a week later. That night, I turned off my phone and just sat at my kitchen table in silence. My hands were shaking and I don't know why. Rage, pity, exhaustion. I don't even know what I was feeling anymore. I wanted to say it wasn't my problem. That she brought this on herself. That this was just the natural conclusion of her choices. But her daughter, she didn't choose this. She didn't steal my card. She didn't lie. She was just a little girl who loved pink glittery things and birthday balloons, And now she was unconscious in a hospital bed with tubes coming out of her arm. By the next morning, the messages had gotten desperate. One from my aunt said, "I know what she did was wrong, Edna. But this is her child. Please." Mia sent another, "If you can help even a little, I'll find a way to pay you back." Then came Olivia's own message. Just 3 words. "Please. I'm sorry." No long explanation. No excuses. Just those 3 words. It was probably the most honest thing she'd ever sent me. The truth was I had money. Not much. Not anymore. But there was one account I hadn't touched. An emergency fund I kept buried in a small credit union. No debit card, no online access. I'd been feeding it for years. A little here, a little there. It wasn't supposed to be touched unless I lost my job or something happened to me. There was $7,400 in it. I went to the bank that morning and pulled out $7,000 in cash. The teller gave me a weird look when I asked for it all in bills, but I just nodded and said it was for medical costs. She didn't ask questions after that. I packed it into a white envelope, labeled it with her name. I kept $400 for myself, just enough for rent and groceries barely. I didn't call first. I didn't text. I just drove to the hospital and asked for her daughter by name. They brought me to a small waiting room, and there she was, Olivia, sitting by herself, hunched over, looking like someone had stolen the air out of her. She looked up and I don't know what she expected. Maybe me to slap her, maybe to walk right past her. But I just walked over and held out the envelope. She didn't even take it at first. He stared at it like it was poison. Then she looked at me, and something broke. He didn't yell. She didn't defend herself. She didn't blame anyone. He just cried. The kind of crying that doesn't come from guilt or even shame but from exhaustion. Pure quiet collapse. I handed it to her, turned around and walked out without saying a single word. And I told myself, this doesn't fix anything. But maybe it stops her daughter from suffering for mistakes she never made. I had no idea what would come next. But what happened over the next few days changed everything again, in a way I never expected. The hospital stay lasted 4 days. I didn't go back after I handed her the envelope. I told myself I'd done what I could and the rest wasn't mine to carry. But I thought about that little girl constantly, her pale skin, the wires in her arm, the way a birthday had somehow turned into a medical emergency. I kept checking my phone even though I didn't want to admit I was waiting for something. On the 3rd night a text finally came. No words. Just a photo. Her daughter in the hospital bed, eyes barely open, a small bear tucked under her arm. You could see she was still in pain but she was alive. Sitting at the edge of the frame, almost hidden behind the 4-pole, was Olivia. Her head was bowed and even in that grainy photo something looked different. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't posing. She looked like someone who had been stripped of all the noise and drama she used to wrap herself in. That night I didn't toss and turn. I didn't stare at the ceiling wondering what she'd ruin next. I slept, really slept, for the first time since this all began. The next morning my mom called. She said Olivia had barely spoken to anyone at the hospital. No outbursts, no tantrums, no blaming. Just quiet. Focused. She never left her daughter's side. And then she told me something else. Olivia had finished the returns. Every last dollar from the shopping spree had been refunded, or replaced with pawned cash where returns weren't possible. She'd even gone back to the Apple store twice trying to return the opened iPad. They refused, so she pawned it and handed over the cash. By the time I checked my bank account that afternoon, the total was back to $2,300. To the cent. I didn't know what to feel. Relief maybe, but also confusion. This wasn't how she operated. This wasn't the Olivia I knew. And then, as if on cue, there was a knock at my door. I opened it and there she was. No dramatic entrance, no makeup, no forced energy. Just Olivia. Tired. Holding something in her hand. She didn't ask to come in. She didn't even try to explain herself. She looked me in the eye and said, "I need to talk. And I'll listen." I stepped aside. We sat at my kitchen table in the exact spot where I had stared at my phone the night I saw the money vanish. She didn't waste time. She admitted it all. She said she'd lied, she knew it, and the truth was she thought I'd never call her out. She'd gotten too used to people bailing her out. She said she never thought I'd actually turn her in. But she also said that for the first time she was glad I did. Because for the first time in her life something forced her to stop. She didn't just apologize. She didn't just say the words. She said them differently. Like she finally understood what it meant to burn a bridge and stand there staring at the smoke with no one coming to help you rebuild. Then she handed me a folded piece of paper. It was a plan. A real one. A handwritten payment schedule. She wanted to repay the $7,000 I gave her for the surgery. She said it would take time. Probably over a year, maybe 2. But she would do it and she wouldn't stop until she had. I didn't even need to read the paper to know she was serious. I told her the truth. I didn't need the money right now. I'd figure things out. But if she wanted to repay me, she should, not because I expected it but because I could see that she needed to. The next day she got to work. She picked up more shifts at the diner. Started delivering for apps in the evenings. She texted me receipts for small transfers. Updates on her daughter's recovery. Photos from doctor visits. Not because I asked. Because she wanted to. She wasn't trying to repair just the debt. She was repairing the damage. Quietly. One small, believable step at a time. And for the first time in years I started to believe maybe she really had changed. But there was still one more chapter left in all of this. And it started with a letter I got in the mail, with her handwriting on the envelope. It came on a Monday morning. I remember because it was raining and I almost didn't check the mailbox. I'd been in the middle of cleaning out the fridge when I saw the postman walk past the window, and for some reason I felt like I should check. Mixed in with flyers and a couple bills was a plain white envelope. No return address. Just my name, written in that same familiar handwriting I hadn't seen in a long time, Olivia's. It wasn't dramatic or overdone like the cards she used to send for birthdays, the kind where she'd underline random words or add little hearts for flair. This was plain. Careful. Like she wanted to get it right. I stood in the kitchen holding it for a long time. I didn't open it right away. Part of me thought maybe she was going to ask for more help. Maybe she wanted to talk or explain or fix something else. I wasn't sure if I had it in me. But I opened it anyway. It wasn't what I expected. No begging. No dramatic apology. Just 3 pages of honesty I didn't see coming. She started with, "I don't want anything from you. I just need to tell you a few things. And I'm okay if you never respond." She wrote about that night in the hospital. About the hours after the surgery when she couldn't stop crying in the hallway because her daughter was finally stable. About how small she felt when she realized she had no one left to turn to but the same sister she'd betrayed days earlier. She said something inside her cracked. Not in a temporary panic-stricken way, but in a quiet, terrifying way where you realize you've been the villain in your own story for longer than you'd like to admit. She said she hadn't just lost my trust. She'd lost her own ability to even trust herself. The worst part of all, she wrote, was realizing that when she stole from me it didn't feel wrong. Not until it blew up in her face. That line hit me. It didn't feel wrong until it was too late. She talked about what it was like sitting in silence next to her daughter's hospital bed, how it forced her to finally face who she'd become. No distractions. No drama. Just the cold truth of everything she'd done to the people who had loved her most. Then she told me something I never thought I'd hear from her. She said she'd started seeing a counselor. A free one at a small community center not far from her apartment. Twice a week. She said she wasn't doing it to look good for anyone. She was doing it because she had to figure out why she kept choosing the most destructive option in every situation. Why she always pushed people away right when they were trying to help. Why lying came easier than asking for help. She said she was working on it. And she knew it would take time. Probably a long time. But she wasn't running from it this time. At the end of the letter she wrote this. "I know I don't deserve to be trusted again and I'm not asking for that. What I am asking is that if you ever look back on this time, you remember that it changed me. For real. And that's because of you. You didn't scream. You didn't shame me. You just quietly did what was right. You showed me who I wasn't, and who I want to be from now on." She enclosed the last receipts. Final refunds, some small leftover cash from things she managed to sell, and a note that said she'd keep paying back the $7,000, no matter how long it took. She even included a simple spreadsheet, tracking what she'd already returned and what was left. The thing is, I didn't need the letter. I didn't need the receipts. Or the spreadsheet. But I sat there and read it all twice. Because something in her words didn't sound like Olivia the performer. It didn't sound like manipulation or emotional bait. It sounded like a person who finally broke through the surface after years of sinking. A few days later I got a small bank transfer. $150. Then $75 the week after. I never asked. She just sent them, labeled them all repayment. Sometimes I'd come home and find a coffee on my porch. No note, no knock. Just there. Waiting. She never tried to make it dramatic. She never said, "Look at me, I'm trying." She just did the work. Quietly, consistently for once. She even invited me to her daughter's post-op checkup. I went. We sat in the waiting room together, mostly in silence, but it wasn't tense. It was peaceful. And for the first time in years I didn't feel like I was bracing for the next storm. She wasn't perfect. She was still working things out. Still learning how to live without the chaos she used to need like oxygen. But she was trying. For real this time. And I realized something I hadn't expected. I no longer needed her to say sorry again. Because her actions were already doing that. More honestly than any words ever could. 6 months later, the quiet between us no longer felt like distance. It felt like respect. Olivia didn't fall off the map again. She didn't backslide into her old habits or make grand promises and then disappear. He just kept showing up. Not in loud, sweeping gestures, but in the steady kind of way I never thought she was capable of. Once a month I'd get a small bank notification. $120. $95. $60. Always labeled the same, repayment. I never asked for updates. He sent them anyway. Each transfer came with a short message, sometimes just a single word, thank you. She still worked 2 jobs. I knew she was barely scraping by, but I never once heard her complain. Her daughter was healthy again, back in school, growing fast. Olivia never spoiled her the same way after that. No more iPads. No more flashy birthdays. Instead, I saw photos of them at the park making crafts, baking. Real things. The kind of things that don't end up in shopping bags. She invited me to dinner one evening. Just the 3 of us. I hesitated, but I went. Her daughter ran up and hugged me like I hadn't been the person who once sent her mom to jail. She asked if I wanted to play cards. Olivia made a simple dinner, pasta and salad, and we sat around the table like nothing had ever gone wrong. Afterward, Olivia pulled me aside. She didn't cry. She didn't say sorry again. She just looked at me and said, "You saved her life. I don't care what anyone else remembers about that week. That's what I'll never forget." I didn't say much back. I didn't need to. Later that night, I walked home with a strange heaviness in my chest. Not pain. Not even sadness. Just the weight of everything we'd been through. The fact that somehow, after all of it, the theft, the arrest, the hospital, the begging, the letter, we were still standing here better than before. He still owed me over $5,000. And honestly, I didn't know if she'd ever finish paying it back. But at that point, it wasn't about the money. It was about the fact that she wasn't the same woman who had walked into my kitchen and lied to my face. He was different now. She respected me. She thanked me without needing to say it every time. She didn't try to use me anymore. She protected her daughter in a way she never had before. She wasn't perfect, but she was honest. That was enough. Me. I was still rebuilding my savings. Still working extra hours. Still saying no to a lot of things I wanted so I could stay afloat. But when I sat at my kitchen table at night, I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel like a fool. I didn't feel taken advantage of. I felt like someone who had done the right thing even when it hurt. And in return, I got something back I never expected. My sister. The real one. The one I hadn't seen in years. And this time, I think she's here to stay.
Thanks for watching. If this story made you think, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. See you in the next one.